Hi everybody, how are you all doing? I hope we're having a good week so far. So today is Thursday the 8th of May 2014. We're back, Arrow, episode 22, second to last episode. Season finale will be airing next week, and already I think we can tell it's going to be epically awesome and intense. But let's talk about last night's amazing episode. Just brilliant. Again, picks up from where we left off with last week's episode, where Oliver and Laurel facing off against Slade's army, and knowing that they can't, there's no way they can actually take on them head on. Oliver fires an arrow, brings the building as such down, but then he and Laurel got separated, so he had to teach Laurel how to fire an arrow to, clear the rubble so that they could, meet each other again. So it was quite interesting seeing Laurel firing an arrow using Oliver's bow and arrow. She was very nervous, bless her. Meanwhile, at the same time, obviously we've got Slade's army out on the streets, causing serious ruckus. I mean, there's a reason why it's called Streets of Fire. So it was just they're everywhere. They're terrorizing the city. They're taking people out. We've got Quentin Lance fighting back. He uses 3 grenades on one particular fellow as well, who just would not go down. People were shooting him and everything, but he was still standing. So the only thing that could take him was 3 grenades from Quentin. And speaking of Quentin, he has now been re-promoted back to detective status, purely because the police force, I think it's the lieutenant that was there as well. He, there was nobody else that they could call on. The commissioner was apparently dead. Quentin also warned the lieutenant that Mayor Blood is actually part of Slade's cause. The reason why these people are, these men are out there causing these problems on the streets. At first he couldn't believe it. But then obviously he eventually came to the idea that the only person who was capable, who they could call on was the Arrow. So everybody's literally now following the Arrow. So he's, Oliver's now got a big team, but he still feels as if he cannot beat Slade and win this particular fight. He knows it's an uphill struggle. I mean, we go to the flashback and we see, him trying to rescue Sarah from Slade, because she's been trapped on the Amazo ship again. So, but they were gonna try and get the cure for the Mirakuru so that Oliver could use it on Slade. That turned to be a bit of a dead end. But yeah, I mean, Oliver still feels responsible for the deaths of his mother, Tommy, and he blames himself for not. Again, he's blaming himself for not stopping Slade when he should have done back on the island, which I'm sure we'll see the conclusion of that next week, so that'll be interesting. But again, they've had to take Roy out of the foundry and move him to Canary's bird nest as such, and they've got the venom inside him, to retract the Mirakuru for the time being, whilst they're still working on a cure. Thea faces off against Malcolm Merlyn, who is just pissed off. Do you know what it is, right? When he appeared on the screen and stopped one of Slade's men, I have never been more excited, or happy rather, to see the Dark Archer appear on screen. Honestly, I was just like, thank God at last he's here. And I thought, but last season this was the guy who tried to kill Oliver. Now he's here saving his own daughter. I was like, oh my God. So you kind of felt that changeover. Last year we're all rooting for Oliver to take out the Dark Archer because he was unstoppable. This time round it's the other way around. We're rooting for the Dark Archer because he needs to save his daughter. So something happens between them two towards the end, which I'll get to in a moment, which I was very surprised about. But again, I'm sure next week will show us exactly how that turned out. Laurel's really taken a you know, sort of like a central focal point with Team Arrow now. She's getting heavily involved. She's helping out her father. She now knows that Sarah is the Canary, which I thought was kind of because it was like Sarah comes to save her from one of Deathstroke's men, and then they run somewhere, and then for, you know, they're both looking at each other, and then that's when Laurel's like, Sarah. I was like, you took your time. I was like, but then it just sort of felt a bit underwhelming, you know, when she eventually found out who her sister really was. But then there was a conversation between the pair of them, and this, and you know, this sort of stood out for me. Conversation between the pair of them. Sarah telling Laurel about her time with, you know, the League of Shadows, and then she's sorry, League of Shadows, League of Assassins. I'm thinking of Dark Knight Rises there. The League of Assassins, and she was saying how she was given a name. And it meant the Canary was its translation, but the first part of the name was Talia. So I'm thinking, ooh, Talia Al something. I could not remember. Honestly, I cannot remember the rest of it. So my memory is pretty bad on that. So I cannot remember the rest of it. But I sort of like thought, oh, Talia, why would she have a name like that? But then when you know, Laurel asked, what does it mean? She said, the Canary. I thought, you can see there's a bit of a passing of the torch between these two here. I still feel that something drastic is going to happen to Sarah next week. I think she's going to be the one that that Slade is going to kill. Because, you know, he knows Sarah more from the island as well as Oliver than anybody else in his family or close to him. So, I think that's what's going to happen. And, yeah. There's also a bit of a tease. Someone tweeted me a picture yesterday of a tease of Roy Harper, not just with his red hoodie, but with a red mask as well. We're going to see Roy Harper partially suited up, ladies and gentlemen, next week. So looking forward to that. And speaking of suited up, how about Isabel Rochev going up against John Diggle? What was really interesting was how Felicity came in like a wrecking ball and completely knocked her flat out with the van. But about 2 minutes later, you know, Isabel's getting up. So, but it was just so awesome. There's Isabel above Diggles, you know, saying that I'm going to kill you and all this stuff, and then without even realising it, boom, Felicity just comes out of nowhere in the van. It's like, oh dear, that was pure awesome. Felicity did have moments of, you know, I would say weakness, but she's like, she's part of it. She's that sort of central sort of tripod as such of the team between herself, Diggle, and Oliver, where she's all about the emotion, and it shows. And tonight, last night's episode, you could really see how she was feeling for Oliver. Oliver was, you know, bringing himself down, but she was picking him back up. She was crying, but telling him that, you know, you stopped Malcolm, you stopped Deathshot, you've stopped all these people. You know, you can stop Slade. Don't beat yourself up about it. You know, she's giving him all of that confidence back to say, you've done all of this. You've been here before. This is no worse than what you've been through already. You can do this. And it gave Oliver that confidence, as if to say, you know, look, you know, come on, Felicity is telling me all of this. I've got to pick myself back up. You know, he's already lost his mum. He's lost his best friend. You know, he nearly gave himself up last week. But again, you know, the team brought him back up. Then Felicity did it again this week. And it was just like, pull yourself together, Oliver. You know, you've really got to pull yourself together. So there was that one. Oh my God, Sebastian Blood. The guy seeking redemption. He didn't like what Slade was doing. He wasn't happy that Slade's men were actually tearing up the city. That was not what he agreed to. And in actual fact, the Mirakuru cure that's being couriered from from Central City, Star Labs, because Cisco and well, I believe Cisco was one who was working on the cure at Star Labs, and they had a courier coming across, but obviously there was a bit of an accident, and I sort of tweeted as a tease. I said, if only the courier had been a bit faster than, you know, than a car as such, that would have been interesting. You know, so the Mirakuru cure had arrived in Starling City, but unfortunately, Slade got to it first. But in order for him to seek redemption, Sebastian does the unthinkable and gives Oliver the Mirakuru cure. But for his betrayal against Slade, Slade has him killed by Isabel. So Sebastian Blood is no more, or is he? We don't know yet. He could well be dead, but who knows? Maybe he might come back in season 3. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see. But I was actually quite shocked at that. Didn't see it coming. But it was nice to see that Sebastian actually did eventually have a heart, because his entire electoral staff, his mayoral staff, his office pretty much got killed by Slade's men. So he was not happy about that. So there was that you know, sudden realization that what he's done was wrong. You know, that even though he was going up against Oliver and even Moira as well, he thought what he was doing was actually helping the city, when in fact Slade's plans was not that. He wanted to see the city burn, and that's literally what it was doing. But yeah, all of that, and then, as I say, the end of the episode was just yowzers. Thea pointing a gun at Malcolm, and what happened? Well, I'm going to have to wait till next week, because I'm still at two minds that, yes, she fired 2 shots at him, but maybe they weren't directly at him. She may have missed. She may have actually shot someone else that was probably creeping up behind Malcolm. Or Malcolm's got, you know, bulletproof vests underneath, because he has got bulletproof vests. Think about it. You know, if you shoot him, as we learned with last season's episode, I cannot remember what it was called now, but the one where Deadshot fires two bullets in him, but he has the bulletproof vest, we find out, and that's when Oliver reveals who he is to Tommy as well. So that was an interesting one. But oh my god, as I say, next week is going to be it's going to be interesting. So we have got some serious yeah, but I cannot wait. I cannot wait. I will be sad that it's going to end, obviously, because, you know, it's the 2nd season. But we've got season 3. We're ready. And then just before the incident between Thea and Malcolm, Amanda Waller, the Wall, she called in the cavalry. Argus agents are all over Starling City, or at least approaching Starling City, to contain the area, because she's about to blow the whole place to Kingdom Come. And she's already warned Oliver and everybody else, you either get out of there or you're going to die. Because I don't want to do this, but my hand has been forced by Slade. You've got a couple of choices. Get out or stay and perish. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see what's going to happen with that one next week as well. So as I say, I think the return of Nyissa Al Ghul next week. It looks like Deadshot is also in there as well, because we've seen it in a promo. And as I say, Roy Harper gets his own mask as well, so looking forward to it. We're going to see how it happens, how it all ends. Team Arrow versus Deathstroke and his army. Oh shit. Anyway, I'm going to stop there. As always, this weekend, a new Arrow character spotlight video. I now know who I'm going to be speaking about. I can't believe I haven't done this character, which is quite disappointing for me. But I know exactly who I'm going to talk about, so look out for that one. And I'll see you all very soon. Well, I'll see you next week, actually, for the season finale, the season 2 finale, Unthinkable. Can't wait. Thank you very much. Bye.